struggling with writing your law school scholarship essays? Have you been trying to figure out what you should and shouldn't do? If so, this video is for you. If you're new, my name is Alice Foley and I'm the Associate Law School Consultant with Montgomery Admissions Consulting, and I come to this work with almost a decade's worth of law school admissions experience. And like I said earlier, today we're talking scholarships. Particularly, we're going to start with the things that you shouldn't do as you are writing your scholarship essays. Before we really jump in, I want to make sure to make the point that even if at this point in the application cycle you're tired or you're thinking, I don't have any more essays in me. I'm tired of writing. I can't do it anymore. I'm done. If that's you, I need you to power through. It is absolutely worth it if you are eligible for a scholarship that comes your way to take the time and to put in the effort. Because every scholarship that you receive, whether it is from the school or from an outside organization, every scholarship you receive is money that you don't have to pay to the law school and that you don't have to pay back. And trust me when I say having less things to pay back when you finish law school is always a good idea. So today we're going over 3 things that should hopefully help you start off on the right foot. Because again, these are things we don't want to do. So first, this isn't a new one. Avoid disregarding the prompt and the parameters. So while I said this isn't a new one, I have never said it like this before. At its heart, this is follow the directions, which I've said a lot. I have talked about this before. Law schools spend a lot of time and they spend a ton of effort into the way that they word the questions, the way that they word those prompts. They are looking for something specific. The prompt may seem broad and you may have some wiggle and you may be able to choose from different parts of your life that apply to whatever scholarship it is, but they have asked you for specific information and you need to give it to them. Particularly right now, this is important. You've done your personal statement already. You've done your diversity statement, you've done the supplemental essays, and those give you a lot of freedom. You can talk about pretty much whatever you want in your personal statement. Your diversity statement can be a lot of different things. Scholarships in particular are looking for something specific. Chances are, if you've gotten as far as looking at the prompt itself, it's something that appeals to you, whether that is based on the thing you want to do after law school, or it's something that you're coming into law school with, it's prior work experience, prior volunteer experience, however it applies to you, it does apply to you. And there is something about whatever this scholarship deals with that is interesting and appealing to you. You have things to pull from. You don't need to go rogue on these prompts. You can answer them. You have the stories to tell in order to answer them. And I said this is more important here than anywhere else, and here's why. A lot of the scholarships that law schools will push out of sync with application decisions. So things that are due before application decisions may come out, or things that are due after application decisions have been released. I know in my experience, we had several scholarships at both of my schools that got pushed out to admitted students, and those started right about now. We had an idea of what our class was going to look like. We knew what our budget was going to look like. We knew how much money was in these funds that we could spend out to support our students in school. And when I say we knew what's in those funds, it's that piece that is key. It is that piece that makes it so important that you answer a prompt. The reason why it is so important that you answer the question that is asked of you in your scholarship prompt is because what's tied to those funds is something very specific. Most schools, and whether it lives in the law school, in a development office, in a major foundation, wherever it is, somewhere, a contract was signed. More often they're called MOUs, Memorandums of Understanding. But what that does is it sets out the parameters for who can receive the monies from the fund. Who the person who first started it, who the organization that is backing this, the people that have given this money, whether it was 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, 2 years ago, although that doesn't happen very often. Usually we let them sit for a while, build up some interest. But when that agreement was made and that money was initially handed over, an agreement was made. We as a law school will only spend the money out of this fund on candidates that meet this criteria. And it's one of the really nice things about being able to be a donor later on in life. If something's really important to you, you can fund it. For a lot of places, that turns into public interest scholarships. Someone was very well supported when they were in law school. They've gone on, they did public interest work for a long time. They've gotten to the point in their career where they have money to burn. We all aim for that. And when they look at where they can put that money that isn't just sitting somewhere, where they can do good with the money that they have, they think back to the support that they received while they were in law school and they say, I want to help. So, 50 or 60 years ago, they sat down with somebody from the university, somebody from the law school, and said, I am funding this scholarship for students who are interested in working in public interest. I want to make sure that students that were just like me have the ability to receive support like I did. And when funds are set up like that, and they are very often set up in that kind of way, the school is responsible for finding candidates. We don't want to sit on that money if there is somebody that we can give it to. Interest is great, but if we're spending money out of the account, that's okay. We want to do that. That is why we are saying, we have a public interest scholarship. Here's how you apply. Tell us these 4 things. Tell them the 4 things. It may be that you have to meet all 4 criteria. It may mean that you only have to meet 3. But if you only tell me about one of them because you have chosen to ignore the prompt and focus on only one piece of it, I can't help you because all of a sudden you are ineligible for this particular scholarship. So we're going to answer the questions we're asked completely. We are going to make sure that we are addressing every single bit of the prompt. I mentioned parameters a little bit ago also. You're done with your personal statement, you've gotten it onto 2 pages, you have played along with the rules that they have set out for you, even if you think you should have more space. Those don't stop when you start writing scholarship essays. You will still be given formatting guidelines, whether that is you have to do this in 2 pages, you have to have it double spaced, we want it in no less than 11-point font, it should be in Arial. They can get as specific as they want. Most of the time they give you some leeway, but you're still going to have those parameters built in, and you still have to follow them. First, follow the directions. We put them in there for a reason, and we like to see that you listen when we ask you to do a thing. It gives us a good feel for you, and when you are presented with rules, you follow them. Other reason that they are there is very often you are not the only person applying for this scholarship, and sometimes the people that are reading application for decision may also be reading scholarship applications. That's a lot of reading. And I say this because the people that do these jobs take it seriously. When you meet with an admissions officer and they say that they read your whole application, they are not lying, except when you decide you aren't going to play by the rules. Some schools are really nice and they're very flexible. And if you are 2 or 3 lines over, so 2 pages max, you're at 2 pages and 4 lines. Some places will just read the 4 lines. It was close, they tried, it's fine. Not everywhere. I have both done this because it was our policy, and I have also watched it be done. In the best of times, readers will stop at whatever the max length is. I don't care if you have a beautiful wrap-up. If it's on your 3rd page, I'm not reading it because we asked you for 2 or less. On the meanest end, and the most strict end, they'll toss your application out because you didn't follow the directions. And that's important. So that's page counts. Don't get clever with the formatting in any other kind of way either. Don't try and sneak 1.5 space if it needs to be double spaced. Don't try to sneak in 1/2-inch margins if they ask for 1 inch. Don't make your periods 0.5 font as opposed to the rest of your text. We have seen all of these tricks. Some of us may have even used them when we were students. We can see them when you do it now. Just follow the directions. The next thing that you want to make sure that you are not doing, the next thing that you want to avoid as you are writing these essays is overgeneralization. I mentioned it earlier. I know you're tired, particularly if these are coming out after you have already gone through building your application. You are essayed out. I get it. I do. When faced with the opportunity to recycle, I understand the appeal. And I'm not saying that you have to start from scratch every single time. I'm not saying that. But if you are recycling essays you have already written, chances are they're going to be pretty general, or they're going to have something to do specifically with you. That doesn't change school to school. If there are pieces that require you to talk in detail about the school to which you are applying, about the program to which you are applying, about the scholarship to which you are applying, all of those are written into the prompt which you are going to follow to the letter. Recycling an essay may not be your best bet. You want to do your research. You want to be as specific as possible. You want to make sure that you are tying your experience, the things that make you a good candidate for this particular scholarship, to the things that are important to the organization, to the donor, to the school, whoever it is. You are trying to show them, I'm the best candidate. I can link these things directly together. Here is the story of the thing that I did. I noticed on your website you talk about this thing. Here is why. Let me have the scholarship. And if you are being general, if you are not taking the time to do that research, you cannot make those connections quite as strongly. And that's what you want to do. We talk about this sometime in the resumes. Quantitative data is important. Quantitative is crystal clear. Quantitative is numbers. You may not be putting numbers in your scholarship essays, but it is very clear what you have accomplished. I worked with many children. I worked with 400 children. One of those is significantly more impressive than the other. Specifics are your friend. You want the reader, as they finish this essay, to have no doubt there is not a single candidate better for this scholarship that will be a better addition to my community, that will fit in better here than this person. I can see that they want to be here. I want to help them be here. All of these things go into what may seem like a really simple essay, but it's not. It's so much more than that. It is your chance to show the scholarship committee, whoever that may be, why nobody deserves that scholarship more than you. Why it is not a good fit for anyone as good as it is a fit for you. As they are winding up, you want to leave them thinking, yes, I found them. There are lots of different ways to do that outside of the avoiding of the overgeneralization. One of the things that's super helpful is mirroring the language that you see in the prompts. You can't do that if you're being super general. Mirroring the language that they use when they describe the program, when they describe the fund, when they describe the things that students that have received the scholarship have done in the past. If you can mirror that language and apply it to the things that you have to offer, do so. Finally, and this is an easy one on the overgeneralization and the not recycling of the essays. I can't tell you how many personal statements that I received in my time working in law school admissions that said they were really excited to join the class of 2024 at UCLA. I don't work at UCLA. I never did work at UCLA. Usually it was not enough for me to deny them. That seems rude. But what it shows me is that you are not paying attention. You are being lazy. Because even if you do want to recycle 95% of the essay, don't do this. Max it out at like 50. But if you have borrowed 90% of an essay you already wrote, and you still didn't take the time to read through it carefully and make sure you've got my school name right, certain that you are not naming another institution, that you've got the name of the program right, the proper name. Many of these things have like 400 words, and we don't say the full name when we talk about them in conversation. When you are writing it down, use the proper name, at least the first time you say it. If you have not taken the time to go through and make sure that all of that information is accurate, I don't want to give you this money. Because what it says to me as a reader, at best, this was an afterthought. They may not have been planning to apply to this until they saw it. They may have been banking on another scholarship that they just found out they didn't get, so now they're scrambling. At worst, they're lazy, and that's not something you want to show off when you are asking someone to fund you in law school. You don't want to seem lazy. You may not be, but that's what it looks like. So you want to make sure that you are not generalizing, you are not recycling essays. And then, when the reader finishes up, they walk out, they know exactly why you are the best candidate, they know exactly how excited you are to be there, and they feel really good when they can go to the rest of the committee, whoever is responsible for writing the check downtown, whatever it is, whoever that person is that they need to let know, Alice is our girl this year. There is nobody better suited for this than she is. If you can leave them with that, you're golden. And the very, very last thing that I want you to avoid, and this one should be easy. Like, I'm giving you a throwaway here. It's really important, but it shouldn't be difficult. I want you to avoid bad writing. This is twofold. First, this should be your best writing, mechanically. Your commas should be where commas belong. Your hyphens should be where hyphens belong. Your punctuation, generally, should be where the punctuation belongs. You should be writing in complete sentences. These are just a couple of the things. If you are not doing that, we have a problem. You should have been doing this every other piece of writing you may have done before now. So again, not difficult. You just keep up the good work. That's all you gotta do. The other part of this is content. I talked a lot about answering the prompt completely, to the letter, making sure you are answering the question you have been asked completely, totally. You are giving them very, very clear relationship between what the scholarship does and why it should do it for you. You still need to engage your reader. A lot of the time, scholarship prompts can sound like they just want you to list off your resume. There is a very real chance, I would say better than 90% of scholarship committees, if they are different people than who read your application to begin with, they got your resume. Even if the prompt sounds like it is asking you to list it out again, do better than that. Engage me as a reader. Tell me a story that is going to make sure I get what it is from your resume you have put here. Utilize the space to share a story you haven't shared yet. I was talking about quantitative data earlier. We have that. It's on your resume. This is the qualitative. This is the feelings piece. You are a human person with feelings. You have experiences that this is giving you a chance to share. do so. Continue to share stories. This is not a new piece of writing again. You have already done this. You have been sharing stories through the whole application process. You've done it in your personal statement. You've done it in your diversity statement. You may have done it in supplemental essays. You know how to share the stories that are impactful in your life. You know how to tailor them. You have done this work. I'm going to jump back to mechanics really, really quickly, because the best stories in the world, the most well-developed, thought out, the most engaging stories in the world will not land if your writing is bad. I have seen more of this than I can count in the years that I read applications. It would take me significantly longer because I did want to understand the applicants that were applying to my law school. I was very lucky. I worked in a place where the volume was such that I could spend that time. I could set aside 40 minutes just to dig through a personal statement for one applicant. Not everybody can do that as much as they would like to. And after spending 40 minutes trying to parse 2 pages, I have gotten myself to a really compelling story, but I had to work for it. These beautiful stories, these impactful, engaging stories that this applicant has chosen to share are completely discounted because I can't read the way you have presented it to me. You've got disjointed sentences, you've got run-on sentences over here, there's some dialogue without quotation marks, there are lots of dashes and colons, all sorts of things that don't need to be there, that make it more difficult for your reader to follow. Do not do those things. You want this to be an easy experience for your readers. You want this to be an engaging experience for your readers. And when I say engaging, you want them reading it, you want them understanding your flow. You want them taking away the feelings, the stories that you have chosen to share. Not the fact that they had to work really hard to understand what you were trying to say. But again, this should not be difficult by now. You should be able to do this. You should also probably have a group of people, a writing center, somebody. If you're working with us, it's us, your friends, whoever it is. You should have a group of people that you trust to read over your work. They can spot things that you might miss because you've been looking at it forever, or at least it feels like forever. It's easy to miss things when you have been staring at something for a very, very long time. Get some other eyes on it. Do the things that you were doing before. Do the things that you have done with every important piece of writing. This one is just as important. It may seem small. Again, I know you're probably tired. You don't want to write anymore. You just want to be in law school. You're going to write a lot in law school, just a heads up, but I get it. But this is going to get you money. This is going to make the financial burden of law school smaller, and you have not had to expend a ton of effort. You can do this. You can give that effort back. You can take the time to write a well-written essay for your scholarship. So again, as the committee member is thinking through who it is they want to award the scholarship to, you wrote a beautiful story. It was engaging, it was impactful. I could clearly see why you would be a good candidate for this scholarship. That's what I'm going to remember, and that's what I'm going to suggest as it comes the day to write that check. So, to wrap up, number 1, first thing to avoid as you start writing scholarship essays. Avoid going rogue. Follow the directions, answer the prompt. Number 2, avoid generalizing and total recycling of your essays. Specific content is your friend. You want to draw clear connections between you and the scholarship you are applying to. Also means you're less likely to send the wrong information to the wrong school, which again is very common. Don't be that person. You're better than that. Number 3, avoid bad writing. Tell good stories. Share good stories. Make sure it's your best writing. You can absolutely do this. You know how to write. And this one gets you money for law school. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe. If you have a friend that you think might be helpful, share it with them. Talk soon.